It was a day like any other, seemingly unremarkable in every way, the kind of day that fades into the background of memory, indistinguishable from countless others. The sun hung high, a blazing orb in the vast expanse of the sky, casting its warm glow upon the world below, shadows stretching long and languid across a quiet street, painting the pavement in contrasting shades of light and darkness. The air was still, holding the promise of a peaceful afternoon. Inside the Miller home, a sense of normalcy prevailed. The walls held the echoes of laughter and the comforting rhythm of daily life. Life went on, TV murmuring in the background, a constant hum that filled the silence with familiar voices and stories, coffee brewing, its rich aroma permeating the air, a comforting ritual that marked the passage of time. John Miller was heading to the corner store, a simple errand, a quick trip for a few necessities. He anticipated being back in no time. He kissed his wife Sarah, a tender moment of connection before stepping out into the world, and promised his son Leo a candy bar, a small treat to brighten his day, and a promise he fully intended to keep. No one suspected these would be their last ordinary moments, the final brushstrokes of normalcy before the canvas of their lives was irrevocably altered. John walked out, unaware that with each step he was walking further away from the life he knew, waved from the driveway, a casual gesture of farewell that would soon become a haunting memory, and disappeared into the afternoon, swallowed by the ordinary fabric of a seemingly normal day. 10 minutes passed, an unremarkable interval in the grand scheme of things, then 20, a slight delay perhaps, but nothing to cause alarm. Then an hour stretched on, and a subtle unease began to creep in, a disquieting feeling that something was amiss. Sarah's unease grew, blossoming into a gnawing worry that she couldn't quite shake. Calls to his phone went unanswered, each unanswered ring amplifying her growing anxiety. She tried to stay calm, to rationalize his absence, to find a logical explanation for his delay. Maybe he ran into a friend, a chance encounter that had prolonged his trip. Maybe the line was long, a simple inconvenience that had delayed his return. But as the sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, dread settled in, a cold and heavy weight in the pit of her stomach. The police were called, a desperate measure born of growing fear and a desperate hope for answers. Neighbors searched the woods, their flashlights cutting through the darkness, their voices echoing through the trees as they called out John's name. Flyers went up everywhere, plastered on lampposts and shop windows, a desperate plea for information. John's face stared out from posters, a familiar image now imbued with a haunting sadness. But he was gone, vanished without a trace, leaving behind a void that could never be filled. No witnesses came forward, no one who had seen anything out of the ordinary, no struggle, no sign of foul play, just an inexplicable absence. No car missing. His vehicle remained parked in the driveway, a silent testament to his sudden disappearance. Just vanished, as if he had simply ceased to exist, leaving behind a gaping hole in the fabric of their lives. The world moved on, oblivious to the tragedy that had befallen the Miller family, but for them, time stopped, frozen in the moment of John's disappearance. Days became weeks, each one a painful reminder of his absence. Then months bled into each other, seasons changed, but the void remained, a constant ache in their hearts. The search faded, resources dwindled, and the initial flurry of activity subsided. Hope dimmed, flickering like a candle in the wind, threatening to be extinguished altogether. Sarah and Leo lived in a house haunted by absence, each room a reminder of the man who was no longer there. Every sound sparked hope, a fleeting moment of anticipation quickly extinguished by the harsh reality of his continued absence. The world expected them to move on, to find closure, but how do you mourn someone who simply disappears, leaving behind no body, no answers, no peace? The case grew cold, relegated to the dusty shelves of forgotten files, a testament to the mysteries that sometimes defy resolution. John Miller became a ghost, a local legend whispered in hushed tones, a cautionary tale of the unknown. The Miller family's life was now defined by a single, unanswerable question. What happened to John? A question that echoed in their hearts day after day. The ordinary had become extraordinary, their normal life shattered, and nothing would ever be the same. The shadow of John's disappearance forever looming over them. The world kept turning, relentlessly moving forward. But for the Millers, it had stopped, trapped in a perpetual state of uncertainty and grief. The mystery was perfect, chilling in its completeness, a puzzle with no solution, a story with no ending. And so, John Miller vanished, leaving only questions behind, a haunting legacy of unanswered inquiries and lingering sorrow. 5 years, a significant chunk of time marked by seasons changing, lives evolving, and the relentless march of progress. Leo grew from a boy to a teenager, his voice deepened, his interests shifted, and the world opened up before him with all its possibilities. He was becoming a young man. Sarah rebuilt a fragile new life, brick by painstaking brick. She found strength she never knew she possessed, creating a haven for herself and Leo, a testament to resilience in the face of unimaginable loss. The world moved on, oblivious to the quiet tragedy that had unfolded in one small corner of it. Cities grew, technology advanced, and the relentless pace of modern life continued its unwavering course. The story of John Miller faded, becoming a cold case, a forgotten headline, a whisper in the wind. The missing person posters yellowed and peeled, slowly disappearing from public consciousness. Until the night everything changed. The air grew thick with anticipation, the sky crackled with energy, and the stage was set for an impossible event. A knock at the door, late, with a storm brewing, echoing through the silent house, a sound that would shatter the fragile peace Sarah had so carefully constructed. Sarah opened it, expecting a neighbor, perhaps seeking shelter from the impending storm, or maybe just a friendly face in the darkness. Instead, she saw a man in a familiar jacket. A jacket she knew intimately, a jacket that held 1,000 memories, a jacket she thought she'd never see again. It was John, standing there, as real as the storm raging behind him. Not older, not changed, the same kind eyes, the same familiar smile, the same John she had loved and lost. Exactly as he was 5 years ago, as if no time had passed at all, as if he had simply stepped away for a moment and returned. He held up a candy bar, a small, insignificant gesture that spoke volumes. Sorry, the line was a little long. A casual apology, completely out of sync with the gravity of the situation. His voice, his mannerisms, every detail was perfectly preserved. A ghost from the past resurrected in the present. Everything was the same. An unsettling echo of a life that had been irrevocably altered. For John, only minutes had passed. A blink of an eye, a brief interruption in his routine. For Sarah and Leo it was a lifetime. A chasm of grief, adaptation, and the slow, painful process of moving on. John looked at Leo, now a teenager, a young man he barely recognized. Wow, you've grown. An understatement of epic proportions, a clumsy attempt to bridge the gap of lost time. The candy bar was Leo's childhood favorite, a sweet reminder of simpler times, now tainted with the bitterness of the present. The receipt was dated today, a tangible piece of evidence that defied logic and reason. But John remembered nothing of the missing years, a blank slate where memories should have been, a gaping hole in his existence. He had walked to the store and come back. A simple errand turned into an inexplicable odyssey, while the world spun on without him, leaving him stranded in a temporal anomaly. He was a living paradox, a walking contradiction of everything they understood about time and space, a man unstuck in time, adrift in the currents of a reality that no longer made sense. The impossible had happened, defying science, logic, and the very fabric of reality. John Miller returned, unchanged, a ghost from the past stepping into a future he didn't recognize. The family was stunned, reeling from the shock of his sudden reappearance. Joy tangled with confusion and loss, a complex web of emotions that threatened to unravel everything they had built. The world outside had aged, buildings had been built, technology had advanced, and life had moved on. John had not, remaining frozen in time, a living relic of a bygone era. The mystery deepened, a puzzle with missing pieces, a riddle with no apparent answer. How could a man return without aging, defying the natural laws of decay and the relentless passage of time? With no memory of where he'd been, a blank space in his mind, a void where the answers to their questions should reside. The impossible reunion was just the beginning, the opening chapter of a story far stranger and more complex than they could have ever imagined. The Miller family faced a new reality, a reality where the impossible was possible and the past could suddenly collide with the present. The past and present colliding in their own home, creating a chaotic and unpredictable landscape. John's return was a miracle, a second chance, a gift from the universe, or something stranger, something far more unsettling than a simple act of divine intervention. The questions multiplied, swirling around them like the storm outside, each one more perplexing than the last, and answers were nowhere in sight, lost in the labyrinth of time and the enigma of John's disappearance. The story was no longer over, the book was not closed, and the final chapter was yet to be written. It had only just begun, a new chapter unfolding with each passing moment, filled with uncertainty and the promise of the unknown. The world would soon take notice, drawn to the extraordinary tale of John Miller and the mystery surrounding his return. And the Miller family's ordeal was far from finished, their lives forever changed by the impossible return of a man who was both familiar and utterly unknown. Sarah stared at John, her mind reeling from the sight before her. It was a moment suspended in time, a dream teetering on the edge of reality. It was him, unmistakably John, yet impossibly unchanged. Not a single line etched deeper on his face, not a strand of gray in his hair. At first, she thought it was a cruel joke, a twisted game orchestrated by someone with a dark sense of humor. But his voice, that familiar timbre, shattered her doubt like glass. It was the voice she had longed to hear, the voice that haunted her dreams. Leo saw a stranger in his father's face, a man he vaguely remembered from childhood photos. A man who'd missed his childhood, a father he barely knew. The years of bedtime stories and scraped knees were lost to him. Joy and grief collided in a confusing wave of emotion. The years lost could never be reclaimed, the milestones missed forever etched in the past. The reunion was awkward, filled with confusion and unspoken questions hanging heavy in the air. John was bewildered by the changes in his home, the unfamiliar furniture, the rearranged layout. He was confronted by the teenage son before him, a young man he didn't recognize. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice laced with genuine confusion. "I was only gone a few minutes," he insisted, checking his watch as if to confirm his own sanity. For Sarah and Leo, every word, every gesture, every word reminded them of the chasm between their lives and his, the years of shared experiences he had missed. How do you explain 5 years in a single night? How do you bridge a gap that wide? News of John's return spread quickly through the small town. Neighbors gathered, stunned into silence by the unbelievable news. The man who vanished without a trace had come back, unchanged, as if no time had passed at all. Some called it a miracle, a divine intervention defying all logic. Others whispered about the unnatural, about forces beyond human comprehension. The initial joy of his return was quickly overshadowed by questions that no one seemed able to answer. The mystery of his disappearance, once a cold case, was now eclipsed by the greater mystery of his impossible return, a phenomenon that defied explanation. The Miller family was thrust into the spotlight once again, their lives dissected and analyzed by the world. The world demanded answers, explanations for the impossible, but none were forthcoming, leaving only silence and a growing sense of unease. John Miller's return became a global sensation. News vans crowded the street, the internet exploded with theories, hashtags trended, videos went viral. John was no longer a person, he was a phenomenon. Some saw a miracle, others a hoax. How could a man not age for 5 years? Every photo, every video was scrutinized. For the Millers, privacy vanished. Their confusion played out for the world. Sarah struggled to reconnect with John while shielding her family from relentless media. Leo was torn between joy and frustration. The pressure was immense. John had no answers, his memory was blank, his confusion only deepened the mystery. The world couldn't get enough. The story was no longer about a missing man, it was about the limits of our understanding. As shock faded, the search for answers began. Scientists proposed the time slip theory, rare anomalies in space-time where time flows differently. Maybe John stepped into one. Minutes for him, years for the world. Dr. Eris Thorne explained, "Imagine time as a river. Sometimes there's an eddy where the current slows." The idea was compelling. John as an accidental explorer of time. It offered a scientific-sounding explanation for the impossible. But there was no evidence, only speculation. Critics called it fantasy, but the public latched on. The time slip theory made sense of the senseless. It turned John into a traveler, not a victim. The mystery deepened and the world wondered. Could time really be so fragile? The story captured imaginations everywhere. Another theory emerged. Wormholes. A wormhole, a shortcut through space-time, could explain John's disappearance and return. Dr. Evelyn Reed suggested, a stable wormhole could link 2 points in time. For the traveler, it's instant. For us, years pass. Maybe John journeyed through the cosmos, memory wiped by the experience. The idea was thrilling and terrifying. Wormholes remained theoretical, never observed. Skeptics dismissed it as science fiction, but the image was powerful, a man who touched the unknown and returned. The mystery was now cosmic. John's silence only fueled speculation. The universe, it seemed, was stranger than anyone imagined. Psychologists offered a different explanation, dissociative fugue. John might have lost his memory, lived a new life, then suddenly returned. Dr. Samuel Finch explained, the mind can block out the past completely. But this didn't explain John's lack of aging. Some speculated about suspended animation or secret experiments. The psychological theory was unsettling. What if the mind could steal years without a trace? Theories blurred into conspiracy. The mystery might be cosmic, or hidden in John's own mind. No answer fit all the facts, the puzzle only grew deeper. John Miller became the world's most studied mystery. Doctors found nothing unusual, no physical or psychological clues. He was healthy, sane, but missing 5 years. His last memory, buying a candy bar. His next, knocking on his own door. The intervening time was a void. I wish I could tell you something, John said, but there's nothing, it's just gone. His silence frustrated everyone. Family, public experts. Sarah struggled with the stranger her husband had become. They lived together, separated by time. The world's attention faded, but the silence remained. John never regained his memory. The 5 years were lost forever. He had to learn the world anew, as if he'd traveled through time. He was home, but still lost. The mystery endured, unanswered. John Miller's story lingers between fact and myth. Did he slip through time, travel the cosmos, or lose himself in his own mind? Each theory is as unprovable as the last. The case remains open in the world's imagination. It challenges our understanding of time and reality. John's story breaks the rules we live by. It hints at a universe far stranger than we know. The truth may be hidden in physics, consciousness, or nowhere at all. We are left with questions, not answers. The story is about the mystery itself. We look at the night sky and realize how little we know. For one man, time stopped, and we may never know why. The clock keeps ticking, but the mystery endures.